The dinner started like any other. The table was set neatly, food laid out carefully, the familiar clinking of plates filling the room. If someone walked in, they would think we were a normal family sharing a calm evening together. But I knew something was off. My parents had that look, the one they wore when they had already made a decision and were just waiting for the right moment to announce it. Halfway through the meal, my dad put his fork down. The sound was sharper than it should have been. My mom avoided my eyes. "We need to talk," he said. I felt my stomach tighten. I had heard that tone before. It never meant anything good. "You have 2 days," he continued, voice flat and emotionless, "to pack your things and get out of this house." For a second, I thought I had misheard him. "What?" "You heard me," my mom added quietly, still not looking at me. "This arrangement is no longer working." Arrangement, as if I were a tenant, as if I hadn't lived here my entire life. I looked from one to the other, searching for some sign that this was a misunderstanding. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not our concern," my dad said. "You're an adult. Figure it out." The words didn't just hurt, they stunned me. There was no argument before this, no warning, just a calm, calculated decision delivered between bites of dinner. I wanted to shout. I wanted to ask how parents could say something like that, so casually, but I stayed quiet. Something in me shifted in that moment. Not fear, not anger, something colder, clearer. 2 days. I repeated. "Yes," my dad said. 48 hours. I nodded slowly and finished my meal in silence. They seemed surprised I didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't beg. They had expected resistance. Drama. Instead, they got calm. Because they didn't know something. This house wasn't just theirs. A year ago, when my grandfather passed away, he left me something in his will. Something my parents never took seriously because they assumed it was sentimental, not practical. They never read the documents properly. They never asked questions. They assumed I was powerless. They were wrong. I went to my room, pulled out the folder I had kept hidden for months, and read the papers again just to be sure. Every line confirmed what I already knew. My grandfather had legally transferred ownership of a significant portion of this property to me. Not symbolically, not emotionally, legally. I smiled for the first time that night. They thought they were throwing me out. In reality, they had just given me the perfect reason to finally show them the truth. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was scared, but because my mind was working with a strange clarity. I spread the documents across my bed. The will, the property transfer papers, the legal certification, and the registration copy with my name printed clearly where they had never bothered to look. Grandpa had been very precise. He knew exactly what he was doing. He had told me once, months before he passed, "Some people only understand value when it's written in ink." At the time, I thought he meant money. Now I understood he meant something bigger: control, respect, and protection. The next morning, instead of packing my bags, I called the lawyer who had handled Grandpa's estate. I explained what had happened at dinner. He didn't sound surprised. In fact, he almost sounded like he had been waiting for this call. "They never reviewed the property split properly, did they?" he asked. "No," I said. "Good," he replied calmly. "Come to the office. Bring the papers." 2 hours later, I was sitting across from him as he reviewed everything again. He confirmed what I already knew, but needed to hear from a professional voice. "You are a legal co-owner of this property," he said. "Not emotionally, legally. They cannot force you out. In fact," he paused, then smiled slightly, "you have more authority here than they realize." I felt something settle inside me. Not revenge, not excitement, just confidence. We prepared copies of every document, certified, stamped, official. He advised me not to argue at home, not to reveal anything yet. Let them believe you're leaving, he said, calmly, then present this when they least expect it. So I went home and did exactly that. I started placing a few things in boxes, not because I had to, but because I wanted them to feel certain. I wanted them comfortable in their assumption that I was defeated. My parents watched from a distance. My mom looked relieved. My dad looked satisfied. Neither of them asked where I was going. That hurt more than their words at dinner. By the second evening, my dad walked into my room. Good. I'm glad you're being mature about this. I nodded. Of course. He didn't notice the folder sitting on my desk. On the morning of the third day, the deadline, they were both in the living room when I walked in, holding the documents neatly in my hands. My small bag was by the door, just for effect. I'm ready, I said calmly. My mom gave a small nod. My dad stood up. All right then. I placed the papers on the coffee table between us. Before I go, there's something you should read. Dad frowned. What is this? Just read, I said. He picked up the first page, casually, but as his eyes moved down the lines, his expression changed. The confidence drained from his face. His grip tightened on the paper. My mom leaned over his shoulder. What is it? He didn't answer. She took the papers from him and read for herself. Her mouth slowly parted in disbelief. This says, she whispered. Yes, I said quietly. It says I legally own part of this house. Silence filled the room. Heavy, suffocating. Dad looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. This is fake. It's registered. I replied. Verified. Stamped. You can call the lawyer whose name is on the document. He flipped through the pages faster now, panic replacing authority. Why didn't you tell us? I held his gaze. You never asked. My mom sat down slowly. We thought. I know what you thought, I said. You thought I had no say here. Dad's voice dropped. So what are you saying? I'm saying, I replied calmly, you cannot ask me to leave a property I legally co-own. For the first time in my life, my father had nothing to say. No commands. No anger. No loud voice to dominate the room. Just silence. The power in the house had shifted without a single argument, and I hadn't raised my voice once. The room stayed quiet for a long time. My dad sat back down slowly, still holding the papers like they might change if he stared hard enough. My mom looked at me, not with anger, but with something closer to realization. I didn't want this to turn into a fight, I said calmly. I just wanted respect. Dad exhaled deeply. We didn't know. I know, I replied. That's the problem. I picked up my small bag from the door. I'm not leaving. But things can't stay the same, either. For the first time, they nodded without arguing, not because I shouted, because the truth was finally louder than their authority.